Now, the United Kingdom is heading to an election. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has been in Ireland on the campaign trail, while opponent Sir Keir Starmer has made his way to Scotland. Joining me live is UK-Australian expert, of course, former CEO of the Australian-British Chamber of Commerce, David McCredie. Dave, good to see you. Were you surprised by the fact Rishi Sunak called this snap election?
Absolutely. Actually, Tim, it was really not on the agenda for me. I thought later in the year it had to be run by early next year, like January next year. So I thought the way the polls are looking, where the Conservatives are 20 points behind, it was very hard to see them sort of rushing to the polls, but off we are.
Is he facing a defeat?
Annihilation is a word that's being bandied around. Landslide.
Oh, I know. I was saying as an understatement.
Look, I don't think maybe it necessarily will be as bad as what they think. I think the interesting thing about where we're at the moment, and I think there's some interesting comparisons you can make to Australian politics to try and work it out. Keir Starmer is running a very Albanese-like campaign at the last election. The Tories are in a very similar position to the coalition at the last election, where they've been in for a long time. There are a lot of issues that have built up that people were unhappy with, and they just wanted a change. I think that's the sense that I've got of where the UK is at the moment. They want that change. It's going to be significant. Keep in mind the Tories, the current Parliament, there was an 80-seat majority that Boris Johnson won back in December 4 years ago. So it's the opportunity for them to lose 80 seats is significant. But then there's also the other parties in the House. For Labor to come out with a majority, they'll need to do well. For them to come out with a massive majority, the sort of landslide that people are talking about, I think, becomes more problematic.
No great surprise that Sir Keir Starmer pretty much went straight up to Scotland.
Well, Scotland's a real heartland of Labor victories in the past. And you only have to look at the likes of Gordon Brown and others who had seats north of the English border. And it's important, I think, for Labor to really figure out how to regain that conversation with the Scottish public if they're going to win significant seats in Scotland and win a big majority that they're hoping for.
It'd be fair to say that Rishi Sunak hasn't been a personality-driven Prime Minister, has, in contrast to Boris Johnson, who was larger than life. What do you expect of Sir Keir Starmer?
Look, I think he'll be... firstly, Rishi came in after Liz Truss, who'd really
lasted, what, a day and a half?
Set the world on fire, less than a lettuce. And Boris Johnson obviously is a big personality, and Rishi deliberately was, I'm a cool, sensible, cool-minded, safe pair of hands that will keep our economy going in the right direction. He was able to announce yesterday that inflation's back into the right bracket in the UK, something that we're still grappling with here in Australia. So, he's done what he said on the tin. He's been a pretty moderate sort of guy who just is getting the right things done for the economy. I think he's done a reasonably good job of it. But it's been very hard to do that off the back of what the Conservative Party had left him. On the other hand, Sir Keir Starmer, well, we don't really know to a degree how he will step into the frame. I think the interesting thing is, the period of time since Jeremy Corbyn left the leadership, obviously he had to come in as a safe pair of hands in the Labor Party as well, because that was a very tumultuous time for them. And so he will look to be a fairly safe pair of hands going forward. It's interesting when you compare the economic policies of the Chancellor and the Shadow Chancellor, there's not much width between them. So it'll be interesting to see, what reform, if any, Labor really intend to take to this election, other than basically saying that we've had enough of these guys and it's time to give somebody else a turn.
Meanwhile, and quickly, King Charles is back
on deck, and it's great. Terrific to see him. As the Queen used to say, you need to be seen to be believed. So it's always great to have the monarch out and about and back in his role, as we all enjoy seeing from time to time.
You've got a business trip to the UK. Let's have a chat from there on the 16th in a couple of weeks' time.
Be delighted.
David McCredie, thank you very much.